Hello everyone and welcome back to how to get a perfect 800 on the SAT Math with Rin. So today will just be the continuation of the first math module of the first practice test. Today will be specifically the fourth part, which is question 16 to 19. So let's get started. So let's look at number 16. So which expression is equivalent to 6x to the eighth y squared plus 12x squared y squared? So what we can do first in this question is take out what the two terms have in common. So that is the y squareds. So we can take out the y squareds and put it on the outside. And what you're left with is 6x to the eighth plus 12x 2. Now, we want to take out the next thing that these two terms have in common. So that'll be the x squared. So this x squared will be taken out as well, and it'll also be taken out from the x eighth. So you are left with, so x squared times y squared. Now that you took out the x squared, you are left with 6x. And in this case, you would subtract the exponent. So 8 minus 2 will give you 6 plus 12. So after you took out the x squared and the y squared, you're left with 6x to the 6 plus 12. Now there's one more there's one more step we have to do to find the equivalent expression, and that is to take out the coefficient, the common coefficient. So 6 and 12 will both have a factor of 6, right? So you can take out this 6, which will leave the 12 with 2, because 12 divided by 6 is 2. So in this case, when you take out the 6, you have 6x squared y squared times x6 plus 2. So that means your answer has to be C. 6x squared y squared times x to the 6th power plus 2. So just as a recap, you first would want to take out, well, it doesn't necessarily have to go in this order, but what I did was I first took out the common y squared. Then I took out the common x squared, which leaves us with 6x to the 6 plus 12. Then I took out the common coefficient, which is 6, leaving, well, 1x to the 6 plus 2. And then you have this on the outside. So your answer is C, just like that. Now, let's go on to the next question, number 17. So a neighborhood consists of a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is 3934. The equation 2x plus 35y equals 3934 represents this situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? Okay, so we know that the park is 2 hectares and the residential area is 35 hectares. And the number of trees in that total 37-hectare area is 3,934 trees. And this equation determines, well, the number of trees. So, so the 2 represents the hectares of the park, and the 35 represents the hectares of the residential area. So that means that the corresponding variables must represent the average number of trees in that area. So x is being multiplied by 2. So that means that it is related to the park. In other words, x represents the average number of trees per hectare in the park, whereas the y represents the average number of trees per hectare in the residential area. Then that number is multiplied by the total number of hectares in that specific area, then added to the other area to get the total, then added to the number of trees in the other area to get the total number of trees. So in this case, since we're looking for the interpretation of x has to deal with the park because it's being multiplied by 2, the 2-hectare park. So that means your answer has to be, well, it cannot be B because that, or D, because that deals with the residential areas. It has to be parks. It has to deal with the park. So A is the answer. C is not the answer because C is the total number of trees in the park. That will be represented by 2x, but we're looking for just x specifically. So that's the average number of trees per hectare in the park. That number, the average number of trees, is then multiplied by 2 in order to get the total number of trees in the park, which is C in this case, but that's not what we're looking for. We're just getting A. So this is not like a calculation problem. It's just it's just a word problem that you have to interpret. So let's go into the next question. So this one deals with, well, a graph. So the graph shows the relationship between the number of shares of stock from company A, which is the x-axis, and number of shares of stock from company B, the y-axis, that Simon can purchase. Which equation can represent this relationship? So what we have to find the equation that represents this relationship. So what we can do is first find the slope of this graph. So we know that we have 2 points. Well, there are 2 points that we know are on this graph or on the line. We have 60, comma, 0, which represents this point right here, and 0, comma, 40. That represents the y-intercept, which is right here. So with these two known points, we can actually find the slope using the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus, sorry for that, x1. So we can make one of these points x1, y1, and the other one x2, y2. It does not matter which one. You just have to make sure that the x1 and x1 and the y1 are of the same point. So we can do y2, right? We can make this y2 and make this y1. So it's 40 minus 0, which is just 40, and then 0 minus 60. So when you solve that out, you will know that your slope is 40 over negative 60, which can actually be simplified to negative 4 over 6. You divide by 10 on both sides. So, but this can be further simplified by dividing by, well, 2. You're left with 2, negative 2 over 3. So this is your slope. Now what we want to do is put this in the y equals mx plus b format. M represents the slope, b represents the y-intercept. So what we know is that What we know is that the slope is negative 2 over 3, right? That means that the slope is negative. It will be, well, we already know that from the start because, well, the graph is facing down. The slope is negative, so m is negative. So that means that A and C cannot be your answers. The reason is that the slope shown is positive. You have positive 8 here and positive 12 here. That cannot be options because we have to find the equation that has the negative slope. So let's just plug it in first. We have y equals negative 2 over 3. X plus the y plus b, which is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point that intercepts, well, on the y-axis. So that is the 0, comma 40. So that means your y-intercept will be the y value of this point, which is just 40. So your equation so far is y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 40. This is your answer, but it is not one of the available ones. This is correct. We just have to match it to one of these two, either B or D. So what we can do is multiply the 3 on both sides. So you're left with 3y equals negative 2x. By multiplying 3, you're simply canceling the denominator out, plus 40 times 3, which is just 120. Now, we actually have to do one more step forward. See how see how the value here is 480? We want to make this 120 into 480. So we can do that by multiplying by 4. So if we multiply all of these by 4, you're left with 12y equals negative 8x plus 480. Now, you want to do one more thing. You notice how the x and y are on the both side are on the same side. That's what you want to do here as well. So we will move this negative 8x to the other side by simply adding it on both sides. So you're left with 8x, positive 8x, plus 12y equals, well, 480. That means your answer has to be B. It's just like that. So first things first, you first want to find the slope. By using this formula, you'll plug in 2 points on the graph. Then you'll plug it in, or 2 points from the graph. Once you find out the slope, you plug it into the y equals mx plus b formula. Then you will get your equation for the graph. Technically, this will be your final step in most scenarios, but this is not one of your options. So you have to do a few more steps to find the equivalent equation, which is B. 8x plus 12y equals 480. Okay, let's go on to the last question of this video. So circle A has a radius of 3n and circle B has a radius of 129n, 129n, where n is positive, a positive constant. The area of circle B is how many times the area of circle A? So, I believe you're going to be, I believe that you'll be provided with this formula on the exam, but the area of of a circle is pi r squared. So, let's first find the area of circle A, which has a radius of 3n. We can plug in r. We can plug in 3n for r into r. So you are left with pi times 3n squared. 3n squared will give you 9n squared. So pi times 9n squared. This is your area of circle A. Now let's go on to 129, n, which is the radius of circle B. So pi times 129n squared. Now you want to solve for that by doing 129 squared into your calculator. So 129 times 129, that'll give you 16,641. And remember, you're able to use the calculator on this section of the exam, so you can just plug in 129 squared into your calculator, and you'll get 16,641. And then you have, well, n squared. Now, we want to find the area. This is the area of circle B. This is area of circle A. We want to find how many times larger is circle B than circle A. So what we would want to do is just divide 16,641 by 9. And when you plug that into the calculator, you'll get D, which is your answer. So 16,641 divided by 9 gives you 1849, which is your answer. And that will be all for today.